Welcome to a special episode of the 1904 Club. Hopefully the hotel Wi-Fi here in Istanbul holds up because it's not been great. And those that have followed our trips to Turkey over the last 2 or 3 years will know that Wi-Fi can be a bit temperamental here. So anyway, we're going to give it a go. And I'm delighted to say Fletcher is joining us from Leeds.
Hello. This is weird, isn't it? Because we've got for those who don't know, this is like very last minute. Excuse me, lads, can you try and get on this pod for a special episode? And the one who's been entrusted with talking to you, Baz, with dodgy Wi-Fi is the man who can't be trusted with Wi-Fi in the United Kingdom. So
the irony, of course, is not lost on me. Do you know? It's been a lot, and I'm conscious that people probably don't want to hear this, but yesterday was a really long day because we had an early morning flight. Anybody that does a lot of traveling will know that traveling is knackering. And then obviously all the faffing around at the airport, getting to hotels, all that sort of stuff. And then we had the small matter of the England game, which obviously went on late into the night. And I think there's some locals here in Istanbul that probably still haven't recovered from my shouting and my chewing. But anyway,
I wouldn't have you down as that individual, Baz.
Oh, I'm a rioter, as my other half will testify to. I'm sure she and the people that were on the colleagues of mine that were on the bus in Chicago when England played Slovakia, and the bus was relatively quiet as we were travelling to the next destination, and then England scored, and I just let off. I was listening to it on Five. I was listening to it on Five Live. And then I let off an almighty roar on this relatively small bus, minibus type thing, and it was full of. There was 4 Germans in our group as well. They were like, "Oh, what's going on? Das ist nicht gut." But anyway, so that was that. And then
was
obviously
today, just for the record, was that part of your cultural review of Chicago town-style pizzerias across the city in the Illinois state?
You'll be able to read that in the Mirror later this year, actually, if you like.
I hope so. I look forward to it.
And then today, or at the training ground all morning or all day, we've only, like I say, we only just got back, and I was thinking, I'm absolutely knackered, and I just want to go back to the room and just have a shower and go to bed. And then I was like, oh, so much going on. I think we need to do a podcast, and then here we are. So first day at Riva done. A surprise visitor this morning. You may have read, Fletcher. Jaden Philogene tapped me on the shoulder. I didn't see him, actually. I was busy tapping something out on my computer, and then I got a tap on the shoulder. It was young Jaden, and I was like, I almost had to do a double take.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I've actually done something with one of your sister papers, Baz, yesterday. I got a message through X or Twitter, and it was someone from the East Anglian town. I said, do you mind just giving us like a little insight, a little profile? Because we've got good authority that it's going to be, Greaves and Philogene are pretty much done, and Liam Delap's pretty much done. So they've got some lovely audio of my ugly mug giving my non-professional insight into those 3. And then all of a sudden, like you say, he's popped up in Turkey, and I imagine it almost feels like a rom-com, isn't it? He's travelled by himself after everyone's gone away, and it's like, wait for me, lads. But yeah, I imagine you're there. I imagine everyone was very pleased to see him there, for the time being.
He's there. He didn't. What I can say is he didn't take. So they've done double sessions. They're doing double sessions. There was the manager is working them hard. I think this time last year we were here in the same place, and there was only one session a day. It was a long session. Maybe 2.5 hours, give or take a little bit here and there. But they were long sessions in the heat. But today, long session in the morning. It started off with a gym session, then a couple of hours in the morning, and then they had lunch and various other bits and pieces, and then they were back out just before 5 o'clock, and we had another hour and a half, I think it was. Jaden wasn't involved in either session, I guess we'll find out on what day is it today, Thursday. So Friday, tomorrow, if you're watching tonight. Or tomorrow or Friday, if you catch it late, we'll find out if he's actually going to be taking part in training. I guess they want to be careful with him. If he is going to train, there's not a lot of point bringing him out here if he's not going to take part in training. If he's just going to sit in his room for however many days that they decide that is going to happen. So that'll be interesting to watch on Friday. Obviously, they're going to be preparing for the game against Kasim Pasa, which is now been announced. But yeah, so it's a really, really. I know I've seen plenty of people describe it as a transfer saga, and I think, given the behaviour of the agent, who seems to be touting him around and probably not doing Jaden any favours, as we stand, he's still a Hull City player, and he is part of the Hull City travelling party out here in Turkey.
Yeah, can you give us an insight, Baz, into? I mean, how many clubs have been named now that have some form? I mean, leading the race by the sounds of it, we've got Everton, Palace seem to be very much up there, and then Ipswich, of course, as well. But West Ham, Barcelona, is it fact or fiction that they're involved as well?
I mean, I've not seen. I've got to be honest. I haven't been on the gram, as they call it, as the kids call it today. So his agent could have been posting pictures from the Bernabeu or the San Siro or anywhere in Europe. So I don't know. But in terms of where we're at, there is no. Ipswich are still the front runners. Ipswich have in principle agreed terms with the club. The Ipswich deal is the one that Hull City really want to do. That obviously includes Jacob Greaves. Poor old Jacob has had his medical. He's sitting quietly at home waiting for the sign off to go and get it all completed. Ipswich are the favourites. Obviously, Aston Villa have. So there's been a bit of confusion about Aston Villa.
I forgot to mention them just then.
And how they become involved. Well, it's quite straightforward. There's two. The deal with Aston Villa is in many parts. One part is if Hull City were to get into the Premier League, then Villa have the right to buy him back for £15 million. That is one facet of the agreement that Hull City had. Another facet of the agreement Hull City had with Aston Villa is that if Hull City receive bids, any bids, whether they're in the Championship or the National League, it doesn't matter. If they receive any bids, Aston Villa have the right to match that bid. So Ipswich have bid a certain amount, and I actually think it's higher than what's being reported. From what I gather.
Do you reckon?
So, yeah.
Are we talking marginally, or are we talking substantially?
Not marginally, I believe, but let's go with the figures that have been reported across the media. The Ipswich have bid £18 million, right? If they bid £18 million, Aston Villa then have the option to match that. If Ipswich then offer £25 million, and Villa then have the option to match that. The caveat into all this, which makes it complicated for Hull City, is that Villa have a 30% sell-on clause. So if City sell him for £18 million, they're only going to get, realistically, 10 to £12 million of actual money.
12.6 by that mathematics.
Yeah. And then given there's talk of a 5-year deal, the actual money that Hull City would get over the course of that, the payment plan over the course of that 5-year contract would be almost it's tiny.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to highlight, isn't it, Baz, that for those who don't necessarily delve into detail when it comes to transfers, you can have, for example, let's pick a nice round figure and say 10 million quid. It's not necessarily 10 million pounds. Do you want to pay cash or card or check in? It can be, like you say, Baz, it can be over 5 years, and that's 2 million quid. So we'll come on to a 2 million figure in a minute, because that's another story that we're going to come on to. But yeah, the other thing is, though, it makes it so complicated. This is maybe why the Premier League clubs are getting, tangled up in their financial situations as well. Like you say, it's not going to create any real benefit for the Tigers this year unless they can strike a deal with someone else and say, well, we'll give you 5 million for somebody and do exactly the same and end up paying 1 million over 5 years too. I actually think that Villa, in a way, could be doing Hull City a favour, because if they know they're getting 30% of the pie anyway, they might just be in the same way that I think this has happened with the Liam Delap saga. Originally, there was a fee for Liam Delap. For those who don't know, Manchester City wanted 10 million quid, and now it's been batted around. It's almost double that. So is a bidding war taking place between these clubs? Are Aston Villa doing Hull City a favour in terms of trying to get that money up? So then obviously they get some, but then Hull City aren't left too out of pocket.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So ultimately, what we can say is that Jaden is still a Hull City player, and the smart money is on him being sold. Now, it was said to me a few days ago now, or probably last week actually, that if the deal isn't right and it doesn't get done, they will keep him. they are not under any pressure to sell him. It's not, they have to sell him and that's the end of it. And they will just, whatever the bid is, they will get. They will keep him if this deal isn't right. So look, it's fascinating, isn't it? That this is playing out. I feel for Jaden. I've got to be honest, Fletch. You've met him. You've interviewed him. I've spent a lot. I've been around the training ground over the last year and spoken to him a lot. And he's a good kid, Jaden. He's a really, really good kid. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do feel like his agent isn't helping him. I kind of feel the best agents are the ones that just get on and do it away from the public glare. I'm not convinced having an agent that's splashing pictures all over Instagram is a good thing. There are some fantastic agents out there that look after their players and their families and everything else and do things the right way. I'm not sure that the guy representing Jaden right now is doing him any favours. And as a consequence, is getting people up in arms. But that is what it is. So, without labouring the point too much, we will have to wait and see. Ipswich are still the favourites. Aston Villa are obviously are there. Everton, I mean, I took a huge amount of flack on social media the other day for saying that Everton hadn't had a bid accepted. I spoke to somebody very, very senior at Hull City who categorically told me that Everton hadn't had a bid accepted. And that's what I reported. Now, it still seems to be, to me, that the theme is that the agent is going around all these clubs and saying, Jaden wants to play for you. I know he keeps telling Everton he wants to play for Everton. Well, he's telling Ipswich the same thing. And I dare say he's probably telling Barcelona, Real Madrid, AC Milan and Crystal Palace. The Palace one's an interesting one, actually, because they've obviously got Rak-Saki. And we've been talking about Rak-Saki for a long time. We know, I wrote this the other day, actually, that Rak-Saki was minutes away from being a Hull City player on deadline day last summer. Now, we know they need wingers. I did an interview with Ajun this week. Wingers, again, a big priority. Rak-Saki is a player they've never not wanted. So I know there's a report come out in the press today saying they want Rak-Saki. Well, that's not new news. They've wanted Rak-Saki's been on the list for a year or more now. So the Palace thing, is there something they could potentially? I don't think there is at this stage, but is there something they could do with Palace to get Jaden to Palace and then get Rak-Saki to Hull City?
Yeah, there's two points that are interesting to that, though, isn't there? One is the fact that there is a clear relationship between the two clubs, given Malcolm Ebiue was loaned previously and it didn't work out for him. But then the other thing is, and this isn't to try and cause trouble, but if you're Rak-Saki and you're a winger and you're being replaced by another winger, what's that going to do for him mentally? Is that it can go one of two ways, can't it? He can either come to Hull City on loan and think, right, I've now got to prove my point, or he can sit and sulk, and it could be an interesting one in the way it goes. The fans will obviously welcome him coming into the football club, so we'll have to see what happens with that one.
Yeah, and I mean, but I completely take your point as well about Rak-Saki, about the confidence thing. Last year was a complete nightmare for him. He started off in the squad, was out of it, got injured, got a nasty injury. He was out for most of the season. I think he was in the squad for like 3 of the final 4 games. And obviously the season started under Hodgson, it finished under Glasner. Totally worlds apart in terms of how Hodgson and Glasner did. But equally, what I would say is Rak-Saki, and this goes for any player looking at joining Hull City, they can look. City have got a really good bargaining chip at the minute because they can say, well, look at what happened last season. Jacob Greaves was a very, very good defender, but last season went on to a completely different level and is now is going to become a Premier League footballer. Jaden Philogene was plucked from Aston Villa, having played for Cardiff. He's come to Hull City. Not only has he got into the England under-21s and has become a regular and scoring goals, and he's been watched by Gareth Southgate. He's also on the verge of a move to the Premier League. Liam Delap had a really poor season in the Championship, split between Preston and Stoke City. Nobody was really that fussed. He's come to Hull City, had a really good season, hampered by injury, admittedly, but a really good season, and is now on the cusp of a big money move to Ipswich and in the Premier League. And we can look at other players. Fabio Carvalho suddenly become, his value shot up, having had a nightmare time at Leipzig. Tyler Morton, there's talk of him getting a big money move, funny enough, to Leipzig. There's a lot of interest in him. So Hull City have made players that perhaps didn't have great seasons before have come to Hull City and had good seasons, and they've gone on potentially to the Premier League, or who knows what's going to happen with Carvalho, and he might well be in the Liverpool squad come the start of the season under Arne Slot. So, from Rex Saki's point of view, he might look at it and think, well, it's not ideal, but I'm not going to get in at Palace. There's an opportunity for me to go to Hull City, play week in, week out, play 40-odd games in the Championship, and then either I go back to Palace a better player and ready to play, or I get a move from Palace and I get a move to a Premier League team. So he needs to be playing ultimately. Last year was a nightmare for him.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing as well that's come out today, well, first of all, that point you just made about the development of players and etc. I think Bernsey touched upon that on Monday in that episode of the 1904 Club. So if you haven't listened to it already, have a listen. There you go. There's my plug done for you, Baz. Doing my little bit. So what about obviously the panic that's been generated in some quarters on social media about when are these signings coming in? When are these signings coming in? Sounds like there could be one on the horizon in Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, so Kiefer Moore is the striker that we've been alluding to for a period of time. We're asked to, out of respect for the powers that be, we're asked to keep that one under our hat to try and give Hull City a chance to get the deal done. Funny enough, I had a message 5 minutes before we came live to say it's not 100% done. Spoke to somebody involved at the training ground at Riva a short time ago who said, you gave clear indication. I think it's almost there, but I think there is a reticence from City, given one or two deals in the past have been prematurely put out to say they're done when they actually haven't been. So it's well on the way. It's very close. I know they've agreed a 3-year deal, so that is that. So I think, and I don't know what you think, Fletch, but I know he's 31. He's had a bit like Ryan Allsop. Actually, he's had a lot of clubs, but I think. Is it fair to say that Kiefer Moore is a late bloomer? If you look at his early career record, struggled to score goals, but more recently scored a lot of goals. And obviously, you look at Ipswich, he scored 7 goals for them in 14 or 15 games last season. After coming in on loan from Bournemouth, he knows where the back of the net is. And Tim Walter is a big fan of him.
Yeah, he got service big time, didn't he, at Ipswich Town? And this is something that I've been, when speaking to your sister publication about the 3 going out, they asked me at the end, said, well, what do you reckon then? Obviously, we've gone into the Premier League and sadly, Hull City have stayed down. What do you think? And I said, the potential is there as long as, if in an attacking sense, players get service. And that is the big thing. If Kiefer Moore doesn't get the service, is he going to be another player that just sort of wanders around looking for little pockets, in almost similar to Harry Kane in some respects in Euro 2024. It's not been a great championship for him. But speaking of international football, that's really, I think, what helped Kiefer Moore's career, because he seemed to absolutely burst into life playing for Wales, and he then translated that back into club football. He obviously was having a hot spell, I think, at Cardiff at the time, and now obviously he's come into Ipswich, got that service, a 1-in-2 goal ratio is absolutely, hot stuff for the Championship, and he'll be playing alongside, if he does stay, of course, he's got Oscar Estepinian to go toe-to-toe with, who's got 13 goals and knows where the back of the net is. But you're pointing your finger at me, Baz. Is there something a little bit secretive that needs to be mentioned?
Not so much secretive, but what I would say is that so we've watched, I've sat and watched training of 5 hours of training today, pretty much, and what was really interesting in the second session of the day, they spent a lot of time on crossing the ball into the box.
Right.
I took some video of it and I've put it on the Hull Live Facebook page. I don't know if I'll be able to tweet it out because it might be a bit too big, but it'll go on the YouTube. It'll go on the 1904 Club YouTube channel at some point before I go to sleep tonight, providing the Wi-Fi holds. But yeah, they spent an awful lot of time, ball out wide, crosses in the box, and so Kiefer Moore is tailor made for that. I also I've had, it's the first time publicly that I've sat down with Tim Walter and had a nice sit down with him in between the two sessions today, and we covered a lot. We're going to talk again throughout. We've got 4 or 5 more interviews to come between now and the end of the trip. But we sat down today and we spoke about Oscar Estepinam, and it was really interesting to hear Tim explain why he's brought him back. Basically, he thinks, well, quite obviously, like a lot of us, Oscar scores goals, and he believes, he's had conversations with Oscar. He believes that Oscar is tailor-made for his system. So for those people that are thinking, well, if Kiefer Moore comes in, they'll get rid. No, that's not going to be the case. I get the feeling that it's going to be Oscar and Kiefer Moore, and there'll be somebody else. And I think they'll look to go for a player in the mould of Ollie Watkins, somebody quick, dynamic and quick. I mean, we saw that incredible effect in Dortmund, didn't we, last night with Ollie Watkins coming off the bench and that world-class finish with, you know, one touch and goal. And I think Tim is a big fan of Ollie Watkins, and I think I
think we all are.
Oh yeah, certainly now. But I think that type of player. So I think they'll look to supplement those two with a player like in that kind of. I know that there's interest in the young lads from Wolves, Chiwamni. So it's going to be interesting. But I think like you said a few minutes ago, Fletch, there's been a lot of panic, and I completely understand it. It was quite comical when we got to the airport on whatever day it was. They're all rolling into one at this juncture, and we were still on the steps waiting to get on the plane and on the aircraft, I should say, and the clouds are really dark, and it was almost like, you know, the perfect narrative of how a lot of people are feeling right now, because a lot of fans are worried. And I put this to Ajun the other day. I said, you know, what can you say? Because fans are concerned. They've seen a mass exodus of players, admittedly all ones that we knew were going to go anyway, in terms of the loan players and the out-of-contract players. We know that, obviously, now there's interest in Jacob and Jaden, which we knew. But I think when it's all right, I think earlier in the summer and the end of the season, it was kind of one of those things that it's right down the path. And we know it's coming, but it's right down the path. But something, when it comes, it becomes difficult to deal with. And there's obviously an element of concern. We know there's interest in Mika Seri from Saudi. Sean McLaughlin's got interest. That's come out this afternoon, so we can confirm that there is interest in Sean McLaughlin.
Right. That's interesting. Just to, you know, forgive me for, you know, stopping you in your stride, Baz.
Yeah, go for it.
With Greaves going and McLaughlin now having interest generated, who's this left-footed centre half that Hull City have depended on for so long? That's suddenly going to become an issue and a hole that needs to be filled that didn't need filling previously.
Absolutely, and you know, there's a lot of hope around Stan Ashby. Stan is part of the group.
Excuse me.
Stan is part of the group, as is Andy Smith. But they, you know, Ajun has said to me, and we put it out this morning, that they want another centre half. So that is something they want to do. If that's without McLaughlin going, that's based on Reeves going. So that's a replacement. If McLaughlin was to go, then obviously that changes it. They're going to need to replace him. So, you know, there's interest. We know there's interest in Matt Ingram. We know there's interest in Jason Lakila and Ryan Longman. But I think what I would, again, I love a caveat, you know that. The caveat I would put on this is that so as you said, they want 8 or 9 signings. You know, we probably all got figures in our head of what we think is right. But what they don't want to do is do what they did last summer. And then, you know, Jason Lakila, lovely guy, I was chatting to him at dinner, sign players that they then decide aren't good enough, and they have to farm them out on loan and pay for them to be out on loan. And that happened with Ryan Longman, and that happened with Ryan Woods, and obviously Jason Lakilo, and Javi Simons was another one. Although he's been brilliant in the training sessions I've seen today, and he scored a wonderful overhead kick. Hopefully, the club put it out on social media at some point, because it was absolutely sublime. But it's all right signing 15, 16 players, but that will give you a squad of 28, 30 players, and that's just too big, too expensive, too big. And you're going to end up with players like Ryan and Jason that are going to be fringe players, not play, and then they're going to be farmed out on loan again, and you're saddled with that financial cost. So yeah, okay, 8 or 9 doesn't seem as many as what a lot of people are thinking. But I think if you look at the squad that it is now, supplement that with 8 or 9 really good signings, then it's probably getting towards where it needs to be. It might still be 1 or 2 short, but it gives them an opportunity. But until these deals are done, and we are going to be going right until, you know, we're going to be in for a late night on deadline day, because it is going to go all the way. And the reality of it, and I keep saying it, but people keep moaning about it, but it's true that City aren't at the top of the food chain. They're well down that food chain, aren't they? They're not a Premier League club. They're not one of the fancy Championship clubs. They don't have parachute payments. So they are waiting on Liverpool to decide whether to send the player out. And Liverpool won't send that player out until they've got adequate cover. And you've also got to factor into the equation that at some clubs, Liverpool being one of them, there's a brand new manager in there, and he isn't going to want to farm players out. James McConnell is a player that City like, but they aren't going to farm out players on loan until the manager's had a good look at them and decided whether or not he wants to keep them around for a season that's got League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, a lot of games. And he might feel that actually keeping those players is because they're really good. He might feel they're good enough to be a part of his first team squad. So they will have to wait. And if they can get 3 or 4, 5 in before the start of the season, which I think they will. I mean, you think that Kiefer Moore's closed. The right back is, I was told this afternoon, is pretty much done as well. Can
we play a game of Guess Who with that, Baz? Or are you? Is it one of those where it's got a little?
I don't want to drop anybody in trouble. So
no.
As soon as we can reveal, or it will come out at some point. These things always do, but out of respect for the people that have asked us to keep it under our hat for the time being, we're going to do that. But
fair enough.
He's a good lad, experienced, knows what he's at, and will be real good competition for Louis Coyle. So. Look, we can't shy away from the fact that they're not in a particularly strong position right now. If you look at the squad, and they need to get players in quickly. But the players if they get another player I've not mentioned is Yukuşlu at West Brom. Really, really good player, really good midfielder. Played 44 times for West Brom last year. Yeah, obviously played for Turkey at the Euros. Good player, isn't he? Oh, Fletcher's frozen. Oh.
Now you see you froze as well, so we can have a little Wi-Fi argument. I just, all I could see was whatever's on your television behind you in your little hotel. So what have you got on there?
It's the Turkish. It's TRT. It's the Turkish football channel, and they had highlights of the England game on last night. Well, they were showing a lot of the Turkey Netherlands game. They're obviously talking about that, and then they were just showing highlights of last night's England game with the Turkish guys going goal, and it was absolutely mental when Ollie Watkins scored. So yeah, it's basically it's Fenerbahce. It's the Fenerbahce are out in Austria at the minute with King Jose, and they're showing. They've got the reporter out with the team, so basically doing what I'm doing, but he's doing it for Fenerbahce in Austria. So yeah, I forgot where we were.
Well, we've kind of hoovered up all the transfer rumours at the moment, haven't we? Incomings and outgoings. So I stopped you in your stride a little bit when we started to speak. You've had your opportunity to chat to Tim, and I have listened in to Mike White's interview. And something that's struck me, and it relates to transfers, is by the sounds of things, Tim has absolutely zero involvement. It's either he's playing, obviously, he's playing the Bond villain and he's, telling a lie, or he's actually genuine, isn't it? You can't cut it either way. You're close to the club, Baz, in terms of when it comes to transfers. Do you think that's genuine? Do you think it's literally just been left to the department for him to simply coach whoever comes in and goes out?
No, I don't think so. I think he's playing the fiddle, if I'm honest. I thought he was sat at lunch with Ajun Kane, and he was sat with Ajun and Tan and Mertan and Mustafa and Berry here. They're in constant communication. So it's funny. We've joked about this with the lads at the club. He is the club, the perfect thing for the football club, because he is straight. He's like Joe Root, straight back, forward defensive. He's giving nothing away about transfers. He just said, look, I'm very happy with the players I've got. They're my boys. They're my squad. I put it to him, it must be difficult for you, trying to trying to get a new ethos across, a new style of play, because it is very, very different to Liam. I don't think we've quite appreciated just how different it is. Very, very different. And one or two players, it's taken longer to adjust to it, I think, than they would have hoped. But he is very pro. These are my players, and I will work with these players until such time as they're not my players anymore. Because I said to him, it's got to be difficult. You don't know. There's a lot of players in this squad that have got doubt over their futures, and there's a lot of players that are going to be coming in. And he was like, well, that's just football. That is just the way it goes. He wouldn't be drawn on. I threw names at him. He wouldn't. I didn't expect him to, Fletch, if I'm honest, because like you do your research and due diligence before a game. I did a lot of research on Tim when I knew he was going to get the job, and spoke to a lot of people that have worked with him, been around him, whether it be journalists that have covered his clubs, or whether it be people that have worked with him. And I got a feel for what he was like. And he's a charming guy. I really like him. Beautiful smile, and a smile that the players will adore, I'm sure. But he just will not. He will not break on transfers, and I respect that. And that is what, from a club point of view, you don't want him to come out and go, "Yeah, we're after this and this player and that player," and all. I like that, because that's dangerous for football clubs. So, and they don't like it; they get twitchy. So. He was very coy about the targets, but make no mistake about it, he knows exactly what's going on, because he's in constant contact with Ajun and with Tim. With Tan, who's here. We'll be speaking to Tan at length over the course of the trip over here. So I was obviously talking to Mike about it. We were having a laugh about it as well. It's going to be a game of cat and mouse over the next until the window closes, really, about deals and stuff. And you can throw names at him, and I think he's just going to bat it straight back. But that's his job, isn't it?
Yeah. The only thing I can predict, maybe, Bernsey was speaking about being Nostradamus and expecting Kiefer Moore to come in a while ago. Who was it out of us four who threw that hat in the ring? I'm a little unsure, to be honest. If it was Bernsey,
I think it was the old Codge. Yeah, I think it was Captain Burns who meant. Let's hope that one works out better than Billy Sharp. Although, as Bernsey said on Monday, Sharp wasn't our fault.
No. And has Tim Walter, using your cricketing Joe Root analogy, has he got a reverse ramp in him and actually said anything about any players that have particularly sparkled so far whilst out at camp?
He hasn't yet, in fairness. And we didn't have long. It was a very short chat on the record with him, to be fair. But what I would say is Xavier Simons has caught my eye today. I thought he's come back looking really, really strong, fit, almost like with a point to prove, dare I say. And another one is Brandon Fleming. I think he's looked very good. And I've got to say, because I know there's a lot of speculation about it, and I know that, and it's for those doubters, we don't just make this stuff up, believe it or not. But Ryan Giles has been brilliant, and he's an absolute character, and he's been brilliant around the group. Right at the end of the second session, the lads were messing around, and they were doing like piggyback horse races. Funny enough, Giles was on the back of Simons, and he was like smacking his backside, like, come on, quicker. He's just a really good lad, and Giles has looked good. For me, I'd love to see Giles, and I've said this before, that I think Giles is attacking. Okay, there's question marks over is he as good defensively as what some managers would want, but going forward, there's no doubt about his quality. We know that's a given. And I'd love to see Giles' team crosses up for Oscar and for Kiefer Moore if he does come, because Tim spoke to me about Oscar, about how he plays between the posts, how he is, something that Harry Kane hasn't been in the Euros, funny enough. That player that when the cross comes in is in that 6-yard box. He just plays between the posts like Lineker used to, the goal hanger, just always between the posts. And I think with Giles' crossing ability, that would be a real interesting one. So look, but I've got to say, Giles we've chatted to him. He's been he's a good lad to have around the group. He's bubbly, he's bright. He does his work. He works his knackers off. but he's also a character, and I think City need characters like him. So look, I think that the smart money is still on him going to Middlesbrough. I still think that is something that will eventually happen. Just because he's here, doesn't mean that he's not going to Middlesbrough. It just means he's not going to Middlesbrough yet.
It's professionalism, isn't it? You can't just, sit and sulk and wait for the move to happen, unless, of course, you're Robbie Savage. I've heard the story of him booting the ball off in training and whatnot. But, he's got professional standards to keep. And from a left-back point of view, if he does go, we wouldn't grumble, would we, at seeing Matty Jacob starting there at left-back for me. I think he can hold his own. Okay, he might not be a star full-back, but he certainly held his own last season, in my opinion.
Well, you've got the other thing as well. You've got 3. It's quite funny. There was 19 players came out, 19 senior players on the aircraft that flew out from Humside. Of those 19, okay, it's now gone up to 20 because Abdouche, and by the way, I forgot to mention, he's been brilliant today. He has been first class. The quality, oh my God. Anyway, so there was 19 players out on the flight. There's now 20 because obviously Abdouche has joined. 8 of those are accounted for by goalkeepers and left backs. There's 4 goalkeepers out here. Timothy Lotitala, who was, I sat and had a chat with him. He wasn't taking part in training. Sat and had a lengthy chat with him today. He was talking about Doncaster and Stevenage, and we talked about the England game. Really nice guy. So you've got Tim, you've got Matt Ingram, you've got Harvey Cartwright, and obviously you've got Ivor Pandor. Then left backs, you've got Gilo, you've got Matty Jacob, James Furlong, and Brandon Fleming. So they've not got many players elsewhere, but they're well stocked. So yeah, look, if Giles goes, I don't think there needs to be any panic about replacing him, because, as I say, you've got, and I like Furlong. I think Furlong's got something about him. I know
about Furlong. Yeah, we forget about him, don't we?
Yeah, admittedly, you were there as well at St Andrews in the FA Cup replay that we lost, but I know it was one appearance, but I thought he was brilliant that night along with Stan Ashby. And it was just a real shame for Furlong that he got a knee injury in that game and played on. He did the ligament, didn't he? But he played on with that injury, and I thought he played really well. So they've got 3. Whether, I guess, that some people would question whether they're good enough in a team that would want to challenge, but I don't know. I guess time will tell. But as it stands at the minute, Giles is still here, and is still a Hull City player. So. I would like to see him stay. I've got to be honest. I like Ryan. I think he's a good player to have around the group. I think he's done it before in the Championship in a Middlesbrough team that got into the playoffs and were narrowly beaten by Coventry. So, but I think the smart money is probably still on him going to Middlesbrough. When that's going to be, who knows?
Well, that's pretty much covered everything that we can do so far, hasn't it, Baz? But shall we? Are you superstitious, or shall we have a prediction at Sunday? Because there's a certain football match which England appear to be playing in, which I think a week ago not many people would have expected. I think me and you both.
Well, the Stars, I'm not particularly superstitious, although I do like to do certain things. So I don't know, but yeah, look, I thought they were good against the Swiss. I thought they played really well without necessarily threatening the goalkeeper quite so much. Kane didn't get into the areas that the balls in the box deserved. But I thought they went up a level again last night. I thought they were exceptional in that first half. Colby Mainu particularly was brilliant. The Dutch changed its second half and tried to stifle them, but they didn't really create a huge amount.
I thought the Dutch were poor last night.
Yeah,
I thought they looked a bit. Some of their passes were a bit loose. I mean, there's a really weird sort of thing in football which I want to believe it, but I think it's just pure coincidence. I genuinely think there is this notion of you can score too early because it rallies the other team up.
We saw it in the final at Wembley against Italy. Shaw scored so early, and it kind of flummoxed us a bit. And I think, like, we were watching the game last night, of course, out here, and you're like, well, even when Holland scored, I was really calm because I thought England have actually started. England have started really well here, and it's Rice didn't do particularly well in blocking him, and he's pinged it from 25 yards in the top bin. Sometimes you just go, yeah, fair play. They didn't do any apart from that. They did nothing, and England bossed it, and they reacted really well. It wasn't a penalty. I'm not having.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a penalty.
But you take the rub of the green when it comes your way. I think Spain are a good side, and I think if they lose to Spain, everybody goes, "You lost to the best team." Spain were the best team in the competition. Fair play. But I think England are getting better, and I think they will cause Spain significant problems. If he goes with the same sort of team, I'd probably keep. I've always been against playing Trippier at left half because I think it unbalances them, and they're too lopsided. But I think actually, given who he's up against on Sunday, that probably isn't a bad idea to have him playing.
We'll see, won't we? We shall see. Anyway, I'm going to let you go.
You've got to go as well. You're off to a pub quiz, I believe.
I am. Yes. I've got my tea right here next to me as well because for those who don't know, Baz Messer, anyone got like a quick half an hour, 40 minutes? I was like, yeah, go on then. I'll do it for make a change and make an appearance for once. And so I've actually brought my chow mein with me, which is homemade. It's not a Chinese takeaway. I do know how to cook. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go and put that in the microwave now, Baz. Thank you very much.
Oh, Flash. Well,
no, it's all right, mate. It's all right. You enjoy your 4-star, 5-star food cuisine. We've managed to go through the entire podcast without talking about the sweet treats of the buffet. Have you
quickly? Can I just mention something? Can I mention something? So we've been eating with the players, and tonight at dinner there was like Turkish doner kebab on the menu. It was there, so I'm thinking, well, everybody tells me I need to eat less kebabs and that kebabs are bad, and I'm thinking, well, actually, they've put out this is a menu that's designed for footballers, elite level athletes, and there's a doner kebab there. So, well,
can I tell you something, Baz? I went to watch. I was doing a bit of scouting the other night. I went to go and see how Scarborough's set up.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. It's nice to take that, dip my toe in the pond of the BBC. I went and watched that friendly. It was a really good friendly, actually. Both teams absolutely at it. Tadcaster versus Scarborough. Pouring down rain. It was like October. Would you like to guess what the players had for their dinner in the clubhouse afterwards?
I would have said pizza and chips, but
you're half right.
On that subject, doner kebab and chips.
Substitute the pizza for what appeared to be suspiciously like Richmond pork sausages.
Really?
Absolutely proper. Off the grill as well. You could smell the grease in the club. I was like, this is non-league football. This is brilliant. And the players are just tucking in, absolutely loving life.
Oh, legendary. So right. Let's wrap it up because I know you've got chow mein to microwave in a pub quiz, and it's now coming up 20 past 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Really quickly, Baz, what can we expect over the next couple of days?
What can we expect? We can expect a 2-hour session in first thing on Friday morning, and then another session in the evening. Then Saturday there is a game at the training ground at Reeve behind closed doors against Cassim Parza, who finished 5th in the Super League. That is a 4 o'clock kickoff in the UK, 6 o'clock here. And then the players have got a day off on Sunday. It's their only day off of the week or the trip. And then next week, Monday training, Tuesday training, Wednesday training, Thursday is game. I nearly said who it was against then. I can't say it because it's not quite confirmed. They're still waiting. Okay. It's wild. They're still waiting to confirm that the pitch is ready at the stadium they want to play at before they confirm it. They can't confirm it until that because they need. Yeah. So that's that. And then Friday is training. Saturday fly home. So hectic. As I say, Sunday is their only day off. And of course, there's a small matter on Sunday night of that final in, I think it's in Munich, Berlin.
You nearly did. And remember, everyone, if I know that obviously it's a weekly thing, the podcast happens. For me, it's like a monthly thing, but we don't necessarily wait to get your questions in when we do a post or a tweet or whatever. Send them through to the 1904 Club on X. And we'll be able to categorize them. And if things are still fresh, if you send something through on a Wednesday and we record on a Monday, if it's still current, we'll try and answer it.
Yeah, and there will be, I keep being told, and the pressure is getting greater now from those powers above me because of how many people listen to the pod, and it's doing really well, that I need to do 2 a week. So that over the next few weeks, there will be 2 a week. I guess I'm going to have to do it. quite how I find the time to do it is anyone's guess. I suppose I do it like just before I'm about to roll into bed. You lot will be getting texts at like 9:30, chaps, and you got half an hour. So there will be more podcasts dropping, which is a good thing for those people that want them. If you don't like them, well, don't listen. But frankly, there will be two of them dropping at some point. So this is the first one from Turkey, but we will have more over the course of the next week or so. So look, Fletch, really appreciate your time, my friend. I know it was short notice.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. It's always nice to be here. In the words of Burnsy, I'm looking forward to the chat. Says it every week. Bless his heart.
Yeah, bless him and Prutz and Fletch, and God bless you all. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. We'll have another one very soon. Plenty of stuff to come, of course, from here in Istanbul over the next few days. Keep in touch with the web. I lose track. The website, the pod, the YouTube channel, the Twitter, Facebook, wherever.
Carrier pigeons.
The only thing we're not on is TikTok, and don't even get me started on that stuff. So, right, over and out, people. Thank you very much, and take care.